Greetings, Paul. Very good evening to you. I must say good morning on my side. It's about half midnight, Nairobi time.
Okay, so you seem to be all smiles, and that's great for us watching in Ghana, because this is not how Kenyan journalists were in 2007 after the declaration of the results. But now, here you are, smiling in the face of similar circumstances. An election dispute seems to be beckoning the Kenyan political history. What's the latest from Kenya right now at midnight on the day of the declaration?
Well, yes, let's just say I'm on standby to go on air anytime I'm called in at the office. Should, God forbid, have any breaking news that I need to attend to. But anyway, far from it, I think I'm all smiles because different from what we've witnessed in prior elections is that Nairobi, and particularly the country, is very quiet and peaceful. Perhaps not what the international media would have expected after our results have been announced just about, 48 hours ago, and we've had, the rejoinder from the candidates in terms of what they actually feel about the results announcement. So a very, very calm country as well, a very calm capital where I'm at here in Nairobi. Something that we've not witnessed before, but this is attributed to the rallying call for peace, especially once the results have been announced. And we have, these were elections that we can actually say the election results really went straight down the middle in terms of looking how the country voted. We're talking about 50%, basically right down the wire, if I may, in terms of 50% for the winning candidate, 50.48%. I'm very careful on the decimal placing here because the electoral body, released a statement and said some commissioners were not really quite happy with how the results were announced, and basically they were attributing that to a percentage point. So it's very critical to actually report about, the winning candidate got 50.48%. So it's actually, something that we're just taking responsibility as journalists to actually say, okay, well, if some commissioners have problems with the results, yes, they're going to go to court. But it's good to report that, there are those decimal points that, actually, to be honest, very minimal to actually take on the winner, but the winner was declared. Remember, the law requires a 50% plus one vote for you to be declared president-elect.
Okay,
William Ruto.
Are you telling us that those 4 commissioners who disagreed with the results also actually do have a figure of what they think William Ruto got and what they think Raila Odinga got? Do they have a counter figure?
Good question, Paul. I think what they actually mentioned today in the ceremony, remember they've had 2 press conferences after the results announcement. I think their key concern has been that in the few minutes towards the presidential results announcement, they were not really quite involved in that deliberation. So their concern is just coming into the totaling of the percentages. And if you look on the stories making rounds on the social media, I know Ghanaians are very quite active and on Twitter, and if you just check the Kenyan elections, you'll actually see that there's been a concern about the mathematical correctness of the results and the mathematical correctness of the 4 commissioners. So it's not something we can actually judge right now. Of course, this is something that will go to court. The other candidates, such Raila Odinga leading the Azimio coalition, and you played that bite earlier on before we started. They've actually confirmed that they will be going into court and they'll be, giving more evidence. It's something that it's a wait and see, to be honest. But as it is, we thank God for the calm that is sweeping across the country.
Okay, so we all know that William Ruto has been declared the winner with 50% plus 1. What about the other threshold of crossing 24 of the 47 counties? Did he achieve that as well? I'm guessing he did.
Yes, he did, and we have a statement signed by the presidential returning officer, that's the chairman, Wafula Chebukati, who is a man who has really been an attack, to be honest, especially looking at the news this evening. I think everyone's just saying that, he could have done better, he could have, consulted further, but per law, he is the one to declare the results. So the question is, it's something we'll be looking forward to, especially when the case goes to the Supreme Court, is as the returning officer, yes, the chairman, and he's rightfully the one supposed to declare the winner, but is that in consultation with the other commissioners prior to the declaration? Or is it assumed that as the returning officer, once he declared the winner, he's already consulted with the other commissioners? So it's just, to be honest, kind of judging into the law, and everyone is referring to the minor KI case. We've been here before previously with the elections being cancelled by the Supreme Court. We don't know if it will go this way, but what you'll actually ask Kenyans on a scale of 1 to 10, depending on how this election was carried out, I think you'll get a score of about 7, 8 out of 10. Because we had a public portal, to be honest, Paul. You can actually go online, and thank God for, crowdsourcing, thank God for data journalists. You can actually go online, get your calculator, and be able to actually come up with the results and actually see how they tallied based off on the forms that have been uploaded. And I think this is really a hallmark in democracy, particularly in Africa, where we have all the forms are actually uploaded online. So different from the previous elections, I think this one, if you actually notice an improvement and a trend that was actually witnessed, especially during when the losers were, when the winners were being announced, is that there were a lot of, concedes, I would say. I mean, also politicians are coming up and saying, I concede defeat. Thank you so much for the time. The voters have chosen so. They're saying, okay, well, my ideas are not in tandem with what perhaps the voters wanted. So that is something that we've not witnessed before, because it always used to be like, I'm going to court, I'm not happy. So straight up from the lower level, member of parliament, we're looking at governor level, the contention is just a presidential election, and we can't wait to see how this one flows.
Okay, so I understand that in Kenya, in a moment, our legal researchers will be taking us to the law in Kenya, but we understand that in Kenya, there can be no swearing in of the declared winner until the processes at the Supreme Court are completed. Is that correct?
Confirmed, that's correct.
So William Ruto right now and Uhuru Kenyatta, has their term already run out? In Ghana, terms run out automatically on 7 January, which is a month after the election in 7 December. Is that the same in Kenya? Have the terms run out? Is it running out on a particular day? What happens if it runs out? How does it work?
Good question, Paul. And the judiciary actually took to Twitter to actually release a statement straight after the results were announced that anyone who is in who has a case to present to the Supreme Court regarding the presidential election should do so within the set time. Now, what set time are we looking at? The results were announced yesterday. So we have about 21 days. So we have about 7 days. 7 days for anyone who is petitioning, anyone who has aggravated to actually file their case in front of the Supreme Court. And this is just particularly for the presidential election. And after that, we're calculating another 21 days for the Supreme Court to actually sit and come up with, the way forward. Now, you will realize from today's remark by Raila Odinga, who's protesting the results, he said that they're going to look at any legal or constitutional viable ways to actually contest the results. So we actually see that going into the law, into the courts. So that is actually how it's going to flow. But at the same time, the president-elect, William Ruto, actually called on, Raila Odinga, that's as a Azimio coalition, to actually play an active role as, the opposition. So he said it's okay. I mean, if they're aggravated, they can definitely go to court, and they will be ready for that as well. But he was also challenging the Azimio coalition to actually be ready to actually be to play an active role as as an opposition. And you'll remember that's actually a very loaded statement, because he actually served as deputy president, and at a time he's actually during his campaign process was actually saying that, if were it not for the handshake, and I'm sure you know a period within the term, the 10-year term that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto actually served, they came in with the handshake with the opposition, and perhaps the deputy president, the president-elect, now said that, that actually caused a weak opposition, and with a weak opposition, it actually caused the government not to perform as it were, or as it was meant to be. So, I mean, really interesting insights, to be honest. And what is actually great is that we're seeing them address the press, straight after he was announced president-elect, Dr. William Ruto sat with the press, both local and international press, and he said, you know what, I'm your friends, I'll be having this conversation, just ask me any question you have. So, of course, the question about their relationship with the President Uhuru Kenyatta came up. It's a question about, the opposition, the question that they kept on repeating, that he's lending an olive branch to, the other side to work and ensure that, he can deliver on the promises that he set out to do in his manifesto.
Okay, so the other question is, three more questions. One of them is, are you journalists in Kenya concerned that Uhuru Kenyatta has not spoken yet publicly about this election?
Not quite. We feel that he's actually spoken through his proxies, if I may. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta is the chairman of the Azimio coalition. And seeing Raila Odinga speak earlier today, it is deemed that, President Uhuru Kenyatta has, spoken through his preferred presidential candidate. Now, you'd also notice at the room, of course, the bite only had his face on it, but you notice on his left and right, we had the Azimio principals, and the room, which is at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, if I may, was actually packed with leaders, various leaders from different political affiliations that particularly have subscribed to, supporting the president. So, as much as he hasn't spoken, I think he's also getting advice. Remember, we've had also communication from the National Security Advisory Council, which is, squarely, very core in the State House. And of course, he's now trying to look at, where's the country headed? How's the security of the country? So I feel like he has a lot on his plate right now, for instance, and he might not want to pronounce himself at this stage, especially because, I think it's going to go the legal way, and maybe perhaps even after swearing in, we don't know, but definitely. And that's a question actually the journalist posed to Dr. William Ruto, the president-elect. And this is what he said. He has not spoken to him, but he had spoken to Raila Odinga. But he hoped that he would have a chance to speak to him, especially after this pronouncement. Okay, so, I don't know why you're asking that, Paul, because what's interesting, we were looking at different presidents in Africa sending congratulatory messages on Twitter to the president-elect. I'm not sure I got the congratulatory message on Twitter from Nana Akufo-Addo, Your Excellency, the President of Ghana. So maybe it's something that we're going to see as we go along.
But which presidents have yet? Which presidents?
Africa, Rwanda, Uganda.
Which presidents have yet congratulated William Ruto? Do you know which presidents? Has Cyril Ramaphosa, for instance? Has Paul Kagame, for instance? Your neighbors.
Yes,
Somalia is disabled, but I can talk of Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni. Has he come out to say something?
Yes,
give us the list.
They have. Yes.
Who's the list?
All the list, all the presidents that you've mentioned have all sent out congratulatory messages. We've seen that through the presidential communications director. That's the president-elect. That's William Samoei Ruto, communications director. That's Hussein Mohammed. If you look on his Twitter profile, he's just been sharing details of the presidents who've taken to Twitter to actually congratulate the president-elect. I don't have the full list, but you mentioned the president of Rwanda, president of Uganda, president of South Africa. We've had the president of Somalia. So we've had all these regional neighbors, if I may. Oh, and Ethiopia, I should mention. Ethiopian president, as well as the prime minister, has been able to send out his congratulatory messages as well. So we see that as a good insight, if I may, in terms of even just seeing what does the regional community have to say about it. It's interesting because, remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta is the chair of the East African community. So it's also taking a very dicey diplomatic state right now. Depending on which side this goes, I'm sure none of the regional governments would want to be caught out in a whole stalemate, which is, who won, who was not won. They don't want to keep a very cordial relationship with the next president.
Let's do some African regional politics now. So it looks like East and Southern Africa, you've had the main guys congratulate William Ruto. I didn't ask about Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa, the president of Zimbabwe, has he also come through with a congratulatory message to William Ruto? Do you know?
Up until for the time of this call, I did not manage to see that. I could already confirm for those that I actually, saw through the verified accounts, for Rwanda, Uganda, and the countries that I've mentioned. For the rest, I'm sure they'll keep streaming in. But I think the presidents are also following advice from their teams in terms of, is this the best time to actually send out congratulatory messages, or should we wait until, we have the inauguration of the case going to court, especially at this moment when Raila Odinga has actually announced that he's, going to pursue legal,
I'm guessing,
legal redress. So, yeah.
I'm guessing that you might not get any message from Ghana, because here in Ghana, we are accustomed to waiting for the election petition. We have done 2 election petitions. We are very used to it. I suspect that former President John Dramani Mahama, who is very close friends with both Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, and our President Nana Akufo-Addo, who is good friends with Uhuru Kenyatta as well, will not send a congratulatory message now that we know the matter is going to court. Most likely they will wait for the court. But that brings me to my next question. So Uhuru Kenyatta is president of Kenya until when?
Until swearing in.
Which is what date?
The question is, when is the swearing in? I'll give 21 days. We say that because the 21 days will kick in after the 7 days have already elapsed. Now, the 7 days are the days that are allowed for anyone who has any dispute to actually present their case. So I wish I'd give you a date right now. So we don't know. Is the Azimio Coalition legal team going to present their case tomorrow, day after tomorrow? Of course, looking at it in terms of business hours or government hours, it has to be before Friday at the set time. And the statement from the judiciary read that they should actually present by 1400 hours from the time of placing in the, I should pick that statement quite well, but they actually gave a set time up to when you need to submit the documents. And remember, these are tons of documents because you need to gather evidence, you need to gather the results, you need to gather all this stuff. And then it's usually a spectacle, I must say. You see trucks and trucks of files being placed into the the chambers, that is the courts. So I think we leave that for the legal space to take in. But in my estimation, if you look at it, we're looking at about say mid-September, end towards September, when this can get out of the way. And the question is, are we going to go through a rerun? So I mean, let's see how the courts rule, to be honest, because the 21 days are when we get the judgment. Now, the question is, what's the judgment going to be like? Then we know how we get from there. But as it is, we have a president-elect. His name has already been gazetted. News on the ground is that, he's gotten extra security in his home. I'm sure his current home has also gotten security beef up. So basically taking a presidential approach into it. So up until then, William Samoei Ruto has been gazetted as president-elect of the Republic of Kenya. The congratulatory messages seem to go well with it. So let's see how it goes. We've had a statement from the American Embassy right here in Nairobi stating that we've had peaceful elections, calling on Kenyans to actually go back to day-to-day duties. Calm has resumed in Nairobi, and especially the hotspots. And hotspots here, I mean, the backyard of Azimio coalition leader, that's Raila Odinga, and also the backyard of William Samoei Ruto, which of course is in jubilated move. So I actually can quote one of the residents of Kisumu who said that, he has had a stab at the presidency for the last 5 attempts, and there you look about 25 years. So as the residents of Kisumu, we are really, we just want to move on, basically. So that's quoting a resident up on national local television earlier today. We don't know how this will flow, but I think the rallying call across the country is that this should be a peaceful process, and the ball is actually at the courts right now.
Okay, let me ask you a final funny question, Laban, and I'm asking a question directly with you. One more will come, though. But a question for you. Why didn't you vote for Raila Odinga, Laban? Why didn't you vote for Raila Odinga?
I'm not mentioning who I voted for, and this is for security reasons.
Okay, I get that.
Anyway,
who do you think that PLO Lumumba? Who do you think that PLO Lumumba voted for? Here in Ghana, we are very accustomed to the rhetoric, the lyrics, and the narrative of PLO Lumumba across Africa, and an African Renaissance sort of narrative it carries. Lumumba found himself in the election petition the last time as one of the lawyers on behalf of President Kenyatta. Right now, an election petition is coming in again. Lumumba is still a big public figure in Nairobi and in Kenya and in Eastern Africa. Who would you say that PLO Lumumba voted for?
Thanks, Paul. I think, and just give you a bit of background, I served in the president's office before I went back into, so I had a stint after my time at the National Media Group for 5 years as a business news anchor. I jumped into the president's office, particularly the president's delivery unit, which is something that, of course, Nana Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, has in his team, which is the delivery unit. And this was under the Tony Blair Institute. I worked in the President Uhuru Kenyatta's office as a communications director, particularly in charge of projects communication, and now back into the newsroom. So I have a bit of understanding in terms of government operations and really how it flows. And I think it's the vision of any president to make sure that his vision, his key takeaways are actually carried on to the next presidency. Of course, granted, there was a tiff after the handshake between the president and his deputy then. Of course, as staff, we really don't get involved into the politics of it. Ours is to really get the job done. And I'm speaking this in hindsight because right now I'm back into the newsroom. We'll say PLO Lumumba is a celebrated African icon. I mean, he's actually served in the Anti-Corruption Commission, and he's been very instrumental in ensuring that the rule of the law is upheld. So I feel like he would go with perhaps what President Uhuru Kenyatta would actually prefer for the country to, have as their next president. So I'm sure I should ask him. I've seen his speeches across, but his rallying call is also on ensuring that we actually have peace. He's been quoted across Africa, across the continent, saying that, first of all, we're a mature democracy. If you remember, Paul, just a few weeks ago, we had the president's debate, which we had candidates come on stage. Of course, Raila Odinga did not show up, but we've had, William Ruto come in, and even just for the fact that we had a presidential debate, something that was really especially deemed not to be African, which actually shows that Kenyans are coming to that level, and Africans in general are coming to that level, which is, we want to question the leaders. We want to really know exactly what they want. Now, it's one thing, yes, for President Uhuru Kenyatta to have his preferred candidate, but what we've actually seen is that, the voice of the people is coming in strong and strong in terms of saying, who are we going to have as the next president? I think once we get time into this and analyzing the results, you'll actually see that I feel like even among the president's team or among the president's family, for instance, you'd actually notice that they voted pro William Samuel Ruto as against Raila Odinga as his preferred candidate. So the question is, what message is that communicating? And I know, Paul, as journalists, you'll always look at the numbers, but as journalists, you're always trying to get the story from the numbers. How is it that in the president's backyard, they actually, voted overwhelmingly for William Samuel Ruto, especially even after announcing about the TIF and about the, the issue they had, especially post the handshake. So, to be honest, hats off to, PLO Lumumba, who's, of course, a learned friend, and I know he must be behind the scenes in whatever way, whichever legal side they'll choose, whether within the Electoral and Boundaries Commission or within Friends of the Court. I'm sure he'll show up as a friend of the court or maybe represent Raila Odinga. We don't know. But I know, of course, after he served government, after being the chair, should I say the DG of the Anti-Corruption Commission, PLO Lumumba is indeed a resource that we have as a country and one of the top legal minds, a lecturer who celebrated both in Kenya and across Africa. So, yeah, it's going to be a legal showdown.
Okay, we'll leave you to go to bed, and we wait for our tickets for the inauguration. We'll fly all our crew on your wallet to Nairobi and give you a good coverage.
One question to you. Do you think your president will show up for the inauguration, whichever side this goes?
I believe so. I believe once the court has resolved it and we have an obvious winner for Kenya, President Akufo-Addo will be there at the inauguration. I believe so.
Feedback on our social media performance on information. How do you find, because the concern has been that, there's always internet shutdown. There's always, a very tense period. I don't know, have you have you struggled to get information of Kenya in social media?
No, we haven't, and we applaud that. The only thing that we are concerned about is we finish our elections in 48 hours, and we carry along about 11 million or so voters, and within 48 hours we're able to declare the results. So we're quite concerned that 48 hours after the election, we still don't know what has happened. And we're also concerned about 4 electoral commissioners being able to say that they do not agree with the declaration. We think that's a bit messy, and we are not used to that in Ghana. Somebody put up a tweet on Ghana, if this had happened in Ghana, what would we have done? We've never had that situation in Ghana. Every time the electoral commissioner, who is the returning officer, announces the presidential election, he's in the company of all the rest, and it goes smoothly. But we think Kenya is demonstrating that there can be diversity in unity, and it's a plus for Africa.
Fantastic. Well, let's wait and see. It's going to be a very interesting few weeks for us in the newsroom. Cannot wait to keep you updated with what's happening on this side.
Thank you, Laban. We'll come back to you on Thursday when we have another show to find out what the latest is. But congratulations, all of you journalists working out there in Nairobi. Congratulations. You did a fantastic job.
Hats off to you as well. Thank you so much.